Good morning, everyone. This is the Board of Directors meeting on December 14th, 2023. It is 9:36 a.m. and the meeting is officially called to order. We do have a quorum, although Ms. Joes will be joining us in just a few minutes. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review them? And are there any amendments or corrections to be offered? If not, we can consider them approved by consensus. Mr. Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next slide. So during this period, I incurred $233.68 in expenses. Two of those were left over from October WEFTEC just because the meeting in November was early enough that it didn't come through. And then a bunch of Deputy Faketics expenses from WEFTEC. All that I see are from WEFTEC, and it's $647.98. But also $180 worth of books that got added to the library for the engineers of water and wastewater. Next slide. Even though it was a shorter month, it was a pretty productive month with outreach, a lot of conversations with folks from Hopkins and the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Justice, and looking at a lot of the Environment and Justice 40 initiative work. And there's a new technical assistance center at the University of Maryland, where they are engaging with smaller community groups and funding their projects. So looking forward to that. Continued engagement with the students from Glen Burnie High School on climate mitigation. They're now looking at trying to measure green roof activity. So I did some stormwater work and green roofs in DC a long time ago, and then I advised them on that. Great conversations with both MDE and DNR. We did support Maryland Department of Natural Resources on a letter of intent for the climate ready workforce application to NOAA. And that letter of intent was, they learned later, the PIs, the leads at DNR learned later that that was an automatic to acceptance for proposal submission. So I was forthright in the new group that's been writing lots of proposals, led by Manager Directors Dolliner and Slatnick, and that I would not ask for any more writing before the holidays were over, but they're going to be ready and charged up to go in January because that larger proposals due in mid-February. And there's still continuing to be lots of opportunities for support for different smaller grants in that space. And Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab is going to be having an open house. You know, we don't really have any work, although there's a former managing director that went to APL, but they are moving a lot into the climate space, into resilience. And so I hope to attend that, or if I don't attend, send a representative for us to see if we can support them in any of their environmental research and work at the national level. Although a lot of their work is top secret, and I don't know if we'd be working on anything top secret, but probably stay out of that space. But if they're doing anything for the general good of the environment, we want to try to see if we can team up with such a large organization so close to us in Howard County. And next slide. Sustainable Energy Strategies was an interesting contact. We have diesel vehicles. That company works on, that company along with Obvious Technologies works on converting diesel to biodiesel. And so, but it turns out you have to keep biodiesel warm. And so there's this advanced heating system that both the vehicle has to have and the storage, but it lowers your carbon emissions and lowers your pollutants, particularly particulate matter, by 90% plus. So just wanting to see if, particularly at MPA, around the MISA, the Maritime Zone, and all of the emissions that are around that part of the port, if they were interested. So we're just vetting it out, but they do cost $30,000 plus per, and obviously that's enough money that we're just working it out, see if it works. The DERA program, EDR, Environmental Dredging and Restoration, did support the port in submitting to another round of the Diesel Emission Reduction Act funds. And sure, it was a very strong proposal led by Amy Warner and Ted Kluge. And so great work by the EDR team in getting that out again and supporting our client, the Maryland Port Administration. The fall recruitment season is now closed. We did attend 10 college and job fair events in November, 3 in early December already. They're not scheduled for the rest of this month, but really getting excited and gearing up to launch our ad for the internship program in early January while all of those college students are on break for the most part. Our recruitment program was so successful that I had a conversation with both MDE and DNR and trying to see if I could convince them that pay for us to help. We added up the total. We attended 75 recruitment and job fair events over the course of the year. And I think it's directly connected to us staying below our vacancy rate. It did not cost a lot of money. It cost about $50,000 in both staff time and registration fees. So put together a quick proposal budget, and the conversations went well, but then once you put the proposal and the money on the table, it was a little different. But we'll see if that works. They could use the help, and I think we would provide a great solution from our environmental background and knowing how all of the systems work, both our unique personnel system, and we still have a few state employees and we know how their personnel system works. So we can describe the benefits and recruit and make sure that their openings are out there at the community college level and the college level and at the workforce development centers. So it was just a nice tag along to the work we've done in keeping our vacancy rate low and doing our recruitment to then try to pitch it so that maybe some more of our administrative staff could have more billable hours, as we've shown success in the past. Next slide. And so this is the season of giving, and MES has been giving a lot. On the slide, you see Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant, and I had the names. Oh, are they on there? Oh yeah. So left to right, Randy Broadwater, Shawnee Reynolds, and Jim Kenner, all holding bags. That was about $182. We also collected here. We also, I didn't have a picture of this, and next year we'll have to make sure we have a picture of this. And I had a nice conversation with Santa Claus yesterday. We have our own resident Santa Claus. He is trimmed down.
Picture too.
I know. I don't have a picture.
I was gonna say it's on my phone.
Oh, it's on your phone. This is just one of those bright ideas that came yesterday. But I wanted, and I queued him up yesterday, but he didn't know I was queuing him up. Can you describe what you do on the Eastern Shore?
Banned in 14 states. But this is a great story. We've had a long association with the Ridgely Maryland Lions Club. And every year they have a parade, and they need a Santa Claus. So my predecessor went out and actually bought a suit and was Santa Claus for a few years, and then he found he couldn't do it any longer. And the only guy with a big enough head and a beard fit the suit, that is. And so I started doing it. So this year was a little different. I did the Ridgely Lions Club parade, and then they have a little get together afterwards. But the Ridgely wintertime festival, town of Ridgely. And as you know, we try to be good community members and give to the community. So I volunteered for their Santa for the day at the Ridgely Winter Festival, which was about 10,000 people. So, and 50,000 is not little kids, so it's all good.
But explain why you were selected.
Oh, because I wasn't creepy.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was fun. It was worthwhile. And next year, y'all have a chance to go see the Ridgely Winter Festival. Free ice skating for the kids, all kind of events. It's amazing what they've actually done that with town. So it's worth going.
And at lunch, I will share the picture.
I gotta figure out the tea party. Tea party. Got it down.
Excellent. Next slide. This year, we also contributed to Marines Toys for Tots, Risky's Wildlife and Primate Sanctuary, and the Salvation Army Angel Tree for 2 families. Staff members contributed to all of these. And not to be left off, we also, as a state agency, participate in the Maryland Charity Campaign. And as of December 11th, the campaign is still going on. MES has contributed 100.4% of the goal that they give to us. And that's an $18,610 goal, commitment in 2024 to the Maryland Charity Campaign. So happy holiday season to all, and thanks to all of the MES staff that participated in all these drives to help families during this holiday season. Next slide. And so I'd like for the board to give a warm welcome to Miss Stephanie Patton, who joined MES on Monday as our new Chief of Human Resources. Ms. Patton joins MES from the NFL Players Association. So she gave up going to the Super Bowl every year to come be with us and lead our HR team. She has more than 15 years of experience in HR and particularly values being able to bring her considerable skills to our mission-driven organization. In addition to her substantial workforce experience, Ms. Patton holds a BA in psychology from the University of Maryland, College Park, go Terps, and is a certified professional in human resource with the HR Certification Institute. We are excited and honored to have her join MES, the MES team and hardworking HR staff.
We don't have a Super Bowl, but we do have a rodeo coming up.
Before we move on, and she's unable to be here today, I believe, but I want to thank Ms. Shannon Betleon, our Associate Chief for Government Affairs, who for the last 6 months has stepped in an acting capacity in something that is not her primary training, but she worked hard. I want to express to the board that there are some staff, she is a particular staff member that throughout the last 3.5 years, whenever I've needed any assistance in any topic, she has dove right in, done the research, did her best, and has never, ever failed in support for MES. So she isn't here. I'm sure she will see this recording at some point in time. And I just wanted to also thank her for the 6 months that she stepped up and welcome her back to the executive office, although she will continue to support Ms. Patton in this transition and will always be available to support HR functions. So when Ms. Betleon, you see this, thank you so much for everything you've done and for always being there to support everyone at MES. Thank you. Next slide. So it's that time of season and state service where some decide to retire and move on. Mr. Don Giddings retired at the end of November after more than 15 years of service with MES, but he had already achieved 30 years of service in the state, working primarily at the Maryland Department of Transportation. Don's father was in the auto parts business, which may have fueled his lifelong passion for automobiles. He's been in fleet at multiple state agencies. Although he only worked a part-time schedule, his unique knowledge of all aspects of fleet management will be missed. He is passionate about and actively involved in state and local politics. He is a frequent at the Taw's Crab Feast, Clam and Crab Bake. Crab and clam bake. We wish him well in his retirement endeavors and hope he spends more time in Maryland than North Carolina, his other adopted state. But thank you, Don, for all your work and lack of conversations. and we wish you the best in your retirement. Next slide. Miss Tara Harris retired from MES this month after 38 years of service at the agency. She began her career in 1985 as a fiscal clerk too, was promoted several times, first to contract services assistant, and then to an agency buyer in 1996. She retired after 4 decades of service as an experienced buyer in our procurement division at headquarters. In addition to being a wealth of knowledge and experience, Ms. Harris is known in the procurement division for her closeness with her coworkers. Though she'll be incredibly missed, we are thankful for her many years of service and wish her the best in retirement. Hope she has great retirement, spending time with her grandchildren and enjoying her personal travels. Thank you, Ms. Harris. Next slide. And Mr. Al Razik. After 30 years as a senior engineer, Mr. Razik is retiring. I'm not going to read the slide. I'm going to pass this to Deputy Furketic, who has a long history of Mr. Razik and can speak.
Oh, I should have brought my thing.
I know I didn't. I know you can come off the cuff of it.
Yeah, no, Al actually was the first person I worked for when I came here to MES, and he started here he came to MES to work at Prince George's County at the landfill methane recovery facility, but ended up here in the office working he was our biosolids manager and remained that his entire career. And is known not only throughout Maryland, but really throughout the US as a biosolids expert. He's brilliant. He's a hard worker. He was one of those that I always used to say, if I asked Al for something, I'd shoot him an email, that he had a response to me before, I would hit send and it would immediately come back to me. So he was very responsive. He was just a fun guy to work with. Besides the fact that, he sat there and he would do his job and he was focused, and we could get him to do fun stuff every now and then, but that was his, he thought a lot of the biosolids industry. It meant a lot to him. He felt like he made a big contribution to MES, and I think he did. We're gonna miss him.
And he's hopefully he'll get bored in a few weeks, and we'll come back and answer calls and give us his expert advice in the future. He is one of the strongest engineers I've ever come into contact with, and his breadth of knowledge and how he assisted with both the implementation of the greenhouse gas report and took that on outside his bailiwick, how he stepped up during our time at that wastewater treatment plant, including a whole biosolids mass balance that they requested. And he just worked. So I don't see a person that worked that hard and they're gonna just go off into the sunset and not work at all. So
well, I was going to say his last day was Tuesday. He was here yesterday for the holiday party, and he was going out today with Heather, who is taking his place. She's been his assistant the last 5 years, and they were going to go visit our land spreading inspectors in Virginia and have their holiday with them. Yep.
I asked him in the hallway this morning.
So he gets a card like you all do. He can just tap in.
Yeah.
But let's give him a round.
Yeah.
And then my final slide. So if you haven't seen our push from comms or our add-on from Deputy Furketic and myself, we are very proud to report for the second consecutive year that we've been awarded top workplaces by the Baltimore Sun. This is a survey. We don't ask for all of the organizations to do that many surveys, really only 2 a year. But this is a really proud one for where we were a few years ago, and that the majority of our employees see the work that we're doing and the camaraderie that the entire team has, and all of the great work we do. the strategic plan that was board approved and the measures and our responsiveness, the level of service we provide to both our clients and internally. It's all reflected in this award, and it's shared by all of us and with you as the board of directors. So, but we don't rest on our laurels. We're halfway through the fiscal year, so let's go for the three-peat. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure if you didn't see it, that we received that award, and it will be displayed outside. We'll keep the trophy case going. But with that, that was my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Director. We do have a new business report, and there are some items on here for review. Just out of curiosity, the PFAS sampling for FY 24, where is that? Where is that located?
Ms. Latnick. Oh, Mr. Page.
Yeah,
It's at several different armories throughout the state of Maryland. We do, there's a schedule that's given, can't remember the exact one we've got this year, but I know we have all three sites that have their own wells, Camp Frederick, Gunpowder, and Frederick Armory.
Yeah.
So we have to sample all those by the end of December per the regulations, and then we have a handful of other ones, but it's dispersed throughout the state.
I'm curious to see how those reports start coming back.
Well,
Because this is new, right?
we're also doing this for DNR.
This is our third
Yeah.
year doing Maryland military sites, and it's on a rolling schedule. They have a schedule provided by the federal government that has to be, these have to be sampled this year and so on. So we're third year of sampling.
With them.
And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think we've had any hits.
For Maryland military.
From
Yeah,
Maryland military.
Just for
We
this.
I was gonna say we have a couple of the parks, but
Right.
yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions on these items? Next up, we have Mr. Patel to tell us all about our solvency.
So you heard great things about MES employees. My job is to tell you how it reflects in our net earnings. And you saw my picture with Don Giddings, who retired from Fleet. I am managing Fleet with my assistant, Harry Berman, and I know everything about cars, but seriously, we are replacing as many vehicles as possible, financially possible, and then, utilization of it so we can recover our costs. So we are very aggressive in getting new vehicles. So that's where my focus is, because a lot of vehicles are reaching 200,000 miles. So we are replacing as soon as possible. So now, as far as the finances is concerned, MES is an excellent financial position. We are doing exceptionally well. I promised last time, not promised, but I mentioned last time that I'm going to put some numbers because those numbers on the charts are very small. But I'll tell you that as of November fiscal year 24, our total billable labor is 17,646,000 as compared to our budget of 16,859,000. And last year at this time was 15,626,000. So we are almost 2 million over in billable labor over last year. Our budgets were prepared with 5% automatic increase in our billable labor. On top of that, we are achieving another 5% in billable labor. So we are almost 10% over budget also. So all this, as you know, the billable labor affects our fringe recovery, our overhead recovery, which is our main component of the net earnings. So we are doing very good. And the recruitment efforts that Dr. Glass mentioned, the onboarding process, we are filling up the vacancies as fast as possible. Now, we are recruiting twice a week. So we have all the resources to complete our projects on time, as well as we are ready when the next environmental project comes up, because we have resources and we can tackle most of those projects on a very timely basis. So overall, the labor sales are 2 million over, which is very good for the MES's net earnings and overhead recovery. Next. So as I mentioned, it was in the graph, but as I did mention that, we have this labor sales 2 million over, which is up 12.93% over last year. Billable labors is also higher. It was 560,000 this year, 523,000 hours last year. So that is up 7%. So its billable hours are also up 7%. The overhead recovery is up 9.92%, and overhead expenses is lower, no, is up by 1.40%. So as of November, we are 687,000 over fiscal year 23 in overhead variance. I'll show you in the next slide, but we had a lot of vacancies in the overhead positions. So we welcome Ms. Pennant, but that affects my bottom line. So. But we have numerous vacancies in overhead positions, and that's as Dr. Glass mentioned, our existing employees are filling in acting capacity to do that, and we are recruiting for all those positions. But that is a big component of our overhead variance, which is increasing the net earnings. Fringe recovery, as of November, we are 621,000 over projection, but the holidays are coming up, and the January we get the new health benefit rates, which is usually higher than what it was so far. So that will affect the fringe variance, but usually we do not count fringe variance as a major component of our net earnings, because that varies depending on how many employees take advantage of tuition and how many other awards we give, Inspire Awards and all that. So fringe recovery is not a major portion. The other 907,000 this year versus 282,000 last year. The major part of it is interest income, and I'll explain a little more in the next slide. But we are very aggressive in investing any excess funds that we have available. Sometimes to the extent that I, when I ask my staff, say, if a check is rejected, what the bank will do? Would they honor it or not? But we are very aggressive in investing, so and we are taking advantage of it because the interest rates are good right now. Next slide, please. So the labor sales now, the previous slide was month to month as of now. Now we are projecting what, based on the current trend, what will be the end of the year. So the labor sales, the budget full year is 39,849,000. We are expecting, under the current scenario, 41,709,000, which is the increase of 1,860,000 over budgeted. I think we may reach $2 million. So, but I hope so that our labor sales will be over $2 million over the budget. The overhead recovery is a lot of times the overhead recovery is not directly related to the labor sales, because we give break in overhead for our major customers. So we get more projects from our major customers, then that recovery is a little lower than directly related to labor sales. Our overhead variance, we are expecting that we will be $1,457,000 over budget, but as we are filling the positions and all, then very likely that current projection may change because of once we have experience after we hire all the vacant positions in overhead. Fringe recovery, we are expecting 367,000 over our budget, but that's not a significant portion of our net earnings. So it may change, but that is nothing to be concerned about there. When we look at the other, our budget was 485,000. We are already projecting of 933,000, mainly because of the interest income. I want to mention that we share our interest earnings with the state. So if we have excess money from the state, they are credited for it. So we have some special purpose fund, we do credit there. We have some contingency fund, we do credit state. So the state does get it. We do the same thing with Midshore and any other clients whose money we are withholding for more than 3 months. So we prorate it every month, what interest is on, and I allocate that to the project. So this is just the MES share of it, but almost equal share goes to the other projects and state also. So right now, we have 2 vacancies in finance, and we have vacancies in HR, and we have vacancies in procurement and all that stuff. We are filling it, and the projections, may change. I just want to mention that if this trend continues, and if we are doing much better than the budget, if you recall, when we received our PVC in July, the state gave 600 deferred comp to every state employee. And I deferred that, waiting for the results. So by December, January, when we know that these results are holding up and the net earnings are in a good position, we may come to the board to approve that, because at that time we did not give those employees, because we wanted to wait until the financial results and see, it is financially feasible to do that. That's all. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you.
And I believe we have Mr. Sharma.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So this is a short report on human resources. Haven't touched upon a few of the things that are ongoing right now, where our vacancies are at. Despite all the recent retirements, we are still on target at 4.67%, so we are still below 5%. We have 37 total vacancies, out of which 7 are new positions. 30 of those are backfills. Also haven't touched upon that we are now onboarding new employees 2 times a week. Our goal is to actually get to any day of the week. Of course, we have to work out the logistics. We have Ms. Patton here now, so we work that through. Lastly, I'd like to mention, at the last meeting, I'd mentioned that we are going to start reviewing our policies, procedures, processes. So now that Ms. Patton is on board, starting next month, we'll start taking a look at everything that we have, and we will make sure that we keep you updated as we go along that initiative. That's all I have. Any questions?
Mr. Barr, why don't you read out that percentage that he has?
Thank you. Is Ms. Condra up? Here for procurement. We're hiding over there.
So we only have one item on our procurement list, and it's from the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Group. The MES contract number is TBD. It's for the project MPA Popular Island Ecosystem Restoration Project, Hart Miller Island Dredge Material Contaminant Facility, and it's a sole source procurement method, and it was awarded to the Vane Brothers Company for the amount of $654,000 and about $600,000 to $400,000. And the MBE goal is 0. And I think the next page you'll see what it entails in terms of taking the transporting fuel to the islands, basically. So sorry. Any questions?
Is there a likelihood that there will be some competition in this area? This is going to be company in the state.
Yes, in the state. Yes, and they're actually the only ones that are certified by the Coast Guard to do this. And it's, again, if anything goes wrong, right, to let someone else, it's going to be a big environmental issue if any oil gets spilled in the water. So it's very sensitive. So, and they have, they have control of all of that, and they have their business process, how they have it, it's all set up, and they have a, they have a good process, and
Do we have confidence that the amount that they have bid is in line with industry standard?
So, that would be, I think so, right, Courtney? Because they've been doing this they've been doing this for years for us, so they're not brand new. So, this is the only time that they're going, sole source. Because the client directed it, because, they know they're very important. If you don't get fuel to the islands, all the islands, it can't be occupied, right? So I think from looking at prior years, I think they're in line. So yeah, I think so, yeah. And this is for a year.
Is there a motion regarding this procurement item? Approval, second,
Second.
excellent. Are there any other questions?
I do have one question.
Yes.
Can folks
Ms.
hear me
Cobb.
in the room?
We sure can.
So this contract, does it include the actual fuel itself?
Yes,
Okay, and who bears the risk of the fuel price variance over that year? If diesel fuel spikes, does the risk then flow through the contract, or does the company bear that risk?
There's no risk because the price is based on the EI index or whatever, you know, so it's based of their markup on that market price.
Okay,
so it's built
So I
in the
guess
price.
we bear the risk, because if there is a spike, our rates would be higher of what we're paying. But it would be fair market.
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Conrad.
Okay. I think the next thing is the notifications. We have 18 and 56% of that is purchase orders.
Any questions on the procurement notifications? Thanks. Thank you. Next, we have group updates, and I believe today we're going to start with water and wastewater with Mr. Barr.
First of all, let me say it could be first again after a year or two. Next slide. Now, if this slide looks familiar, it's because you saw it a year ago when I gave you an update on this project. Matter of fact, my boss, Ellen, said, "Tim, why are we doing Woodstock again? You approve our construction contracts. And a lot of times, well, most of the time, you don't get a chance of sharing the success of it. Because, I'm glad you don't have to, I'm glad we don't have to come back because it's meant that the job is going well.
Good. I just didn't. Oh, and that's not to say I wasn't told. I just didn't remember.
You go back up. So you
Double down.
you approve these contracts. You don't see us again because these jobs have been successful. And that's what I wanted to share with you today about this job. Just to remind you a little bit of background, the Job Corps facility is one we serve with water and wastewater services. The founder is Sergeant Stryver from the 60s that is actually from the Westminster area. It's one of the reasons why we serve it is because it is on a state park property. And as I said, we do provide wastewater treatment facility there. Next slide. Just a quick overview of the project and what we did. We started the construction in March of 2021. The capacity of the project, the capacity of the treatment plant is 50,000 gallons per day. The design cost was roughly $700,000, and the construction cost was $8.5 million. We discharged the first effluent to the stream on December 15th, 2022. So that's a little bit over right around a year or so ago. Next slide, please. Some of the major components of the upgrade were new laboratory, new office facilities, and generated backup. We always want to make sure that our wastewater treatment plants stay online, no matter what happens with the electrical fees. But the real bonus and what we really were targeting for this plant was an upgrade in the technology that would allow us to meet the new quality standards. This particular plant actually discharges to a stream that then discharges to a trout stream. So you can just imagine that the water needs to be pretty clean. Our previous facility was a traditional activated sludge process. As I said, we completed the work in 2022. And with the upgrade came a new technology, or a newer technology, I guess I should say. It's actually been around since the 1980s, and that we call DNR, or membrane bioreactive technology. And what's fascinating about this technology is it gives the plant a smaller footprint. And if you've seen this site, it just sits up on a little ledge, basically. You walk away up to a little ledge, and it also gives extremely high quality product. The effluent is extremely high quality. As a matter of fact, this particular process is the first step to water reuse. And it actually was pioneered by the Japanese because of the limited land space, as well as the need to recycle water. We don't do that much in this area because we have plenty of water in the Potomac. The results are on the next slide. So what you see on the next slide is the standards that we're required to meet. And what you see are results that we were getting back in October this year. And the results of this particular startup have been exceptional. You can see that in the numbers. We're proud of that. And we just wanted to share that with you this morning. Next slide. Behind the scenes, there are always startup problems. I've been involved with constructing things for about the last 20, 30 years. And believe me, nothing comes out perfect. And these are just some of the problems that we encountered. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the team members, operations, engineering, as well as our contractor, who work together to make sure these problems, there's a list of some of the things that we solved. Some mixers were failing, we fixed that problem. There were some programming issues, equipment not coming back on after it starts. All these, you can't run a plant, these things are going on. The disinfection system, we solved that problem, and the influent screen sensor wasn't working. But we solved all those problems, and it's because of these three groups working together: operations, engineering, and the contractor working through the process of getting these things. And so the project that you can see from the numbers was a complete success, and we were able to provide high quality water to a stream that discharges to a trout stream. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the last slide. I just want to give a shout out to our operations people. These are the people who work on the start. These are the people that work on the startup. These are the people who are going to be running this plant for the next 20 years or so. And they do a fantastic job working with the technical folks as well as getting us great results and making sure we get started. So that was it. So there's your update. And like I said, I just wanted to share that success with you because we did talk to the environment in Minnesota.
Yeah. Okay. Are you taking the floor here?
Oh,
Richard?
no, I'm just gonna do the introduction.
Okay, good, because I really don't know how to say that name.
So it's a great pleasure that I'll introduce Melissa Filiaggi to the board again. Former biology teacher. Melissa's one of my division chiefs. She's responsible for all of our operations in Prince George's County, including composting, large material recycling facility that we operate on behalf of the county. Melissa's our subject matter expert on recycling and on recycling markets as well. Constantly in demand in terms of her services and her expertise. One of the things that we're being asked to do more and more frequently are these waste composition studies, and right up Melissa's alley. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa and let her do her stuff. Yeah. You'll notice the teacher in her.
Been a little while. All right, well, thank you, Tim. So waste composition studies, as Tim said, something we're advocating a little bit more for and we're being asked to do more frequently. So these are critical baseline information studies. Basically, what they involve is taking a look at a sample of waste, whether that be recycling, trash destined to landfill, material from a composting facility, or items going to market, and looking at what that's made of. And it could be anything from doing it in your local trash can, in your kitchen, doing it for headquarters, which we're doing in the next month or so, or doing it all the way to a statewide level, which the state did in 2016, looking at various landfill samples throughout the year, all across the state to give an overall picture of waste generation in the state. And it provides really critical information to design programs and evaluate success. So these kind of studies are labor intensive. They're they're not a whole lot, well, they're kind of fun, but you end up picking through a lot of material, but it gives you some really good information. Go to the next slide. Thank you. So as with anything, start by defining your categories and your sample size. What are you really going to look at? And that's different depending on what your end goal is. If you want to look at the amount of recyclables going into a landfill, you're not necessarily going to characterize every piece of non-recyclable items. But if you want to see what is going into your landfill overall, you're going to have different categories. You hand sort and weigh the samples by type, put each type into the material, then you collate that data and extrapolate it for system performance. So you get your percentages, and then you can move out from there and use that to generate an estimate of the volumes of material moving through your systems. The next one, please. And these are what the results would look like. So this is a sample of a waste study that we did on a recyclable truck for a community. We do these for current clients. We also do it for local municipalities, for new clients, and for businesses. So overall, in this particular sample, they had 79,000 pounds of recyclables and roughly 500 pounds of non-recyclables in the facility. So on their face, they're doing pretty well. We've got about 94%. That's well above the industry standard for contamination. Next one. And then we break that down even further in our reports back to our clients, whether they be external or internal clients. So out of that, you can see that they've got roughly 39% paper, 28% cardboard. That's pretty standard for any recycling program. And then you can go down the chart there, and you can see exactly what's coming. So let's say that they wanted to target something for increased recycling. Looks like their plastics and their metals could be good targets for outreach, right? Those might be able to upgrade. Out of their contamination, you've got general trash, and then you've got specific items, right? Lots of plastic bags. That's pretty common. We present it usually both in chart form and then in graph form. See medical waste there is almost 6%, and that presents a big issue for any kind of. So this would be great data for this community. Then go back and justify spending money on education and outreach, because that's a very clear number. After they go and design their next outreach program, we can do this again, and then we can compare to see how effective that outreach is. So it provides both kind of the impetus to our facilities and our communities to go out and design these education programs, and then also a way to assess how valuable they are and if they're actually working, so that way they can better spend their dollars wisely. Go on to the next one. And then we do this not only for incoming and outgoing material, but also material that we're moving into the market. Toward the MRF in October in Prince George's County, we do regular bail breaks there for both material that is heading out to the market and also heading to the landfill. So the pie graph there on the bottom shows you what a fiber bale would look like at this particular bail break. So we take the finished bale, we open it up and perform this study on that. So in that case, we had roughly 60-some% fiber, and then the green is the remaining cardboard. So overall, we had a significant amount of good solid material in there. And we were, for that particular one, we were roughly 2 or 3% contamination, which is the industry. It's actually the high end of the industry standard, moving that to market. We also perform bale breaks on the bales of material going to the landfill. And we look at how many recyclables are in that material, so we can make sure our system's running effectively. We can tweak it if we need to. And then what kind of contamination is coming in the facility, so we can keep in communication with our clients about what we're seeing, so that they can tailor their outreach to the type of material that we're seeing. So overall, they're very useful, and we're doing a lot of them because it's a really good way to control for quality and to spend your outreach, your limited outreach money wisely in communities.
Yeah, Miss
Billy,
Filiagi.
there you go.
Okay, thank you. Testing myself. Next up, we have a fixed wing drone operations, and you are going to introduce your, okay, thank you.
Very happy to introduce Ben Rupert. He's a highly skilled lead survey technician for PR. Our survey group provides a lot of support for our sites, and I'm so glad he's going to talk about this specialized drone because it's way above my knowledge, and no one's able to explain everything. And afterwards, he's going to give a demonstration outside so you can see it in real as well.
Thank you, Ben.
Hey everyone, so my name is Ben Buford. I'm with the EDR Survey Group, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the fixed wing drone operations that we've been doing. So we recently purchased the Wingshore 1 drone, which is a fixed wing, and the plan is to use multispectral imagery that we attach a multispectral sensor to the bottom of it, and it can fly, you know, a lot further than we ever thought we'd be able to recently. So that's great. And our plan is to be able to quantify and analyze the vegetation on the completed weapon cells off our island. Next slide, please. So with this drone, we are all of our operators are Part 107 certified with the FAA, and we did go through a pretty extensive training to be able to learn how to use the drone and the sensors because it's pretty high tech. The reason why we purchased this drone itself is previously the way that we were doing the vegetation analysis was with satellite imagery, and we really relied on good atmospheric conditions during the time of the satellite orbit. So if there weren't good conditions, we just didn't get good data. And at the peak height of the vegetation, it's really important to be able to hit that window, but pretty timely. So this is going to take all of that, the unknowns out of it, where we can capture our own data at our own time when conditions are perfectly met. This, as you'll see later, this drone it's pretty cool. It's a little different than some of the other drones that you may have seen before. It does a vertical takeoff and landing, which is important to be able to protect the drone itself as well as the sensor on the bottom. Before, fixed wing drones would just do what's called a soft belly landing, where they would kind of glide in and bounce off the ground and things would break and sensors would be damaged. So this takes all of that out of this one. As I said, we can do a lot more with this drone. So we can cover 250 acres in 1 hour on one battery compared to, I mean, you can't even compare that to what we used to be able to do. It would take 15 batteries to be able to fly the area that we have to fly now. It's about 740 acres that we have to, and we need to do that relatively fast when the sun is like at its highest peak to capture good imagery. So this is a pretty sophisticated drone. We program the flights into it, and then it's able to take that flight path and fly the entire thing and come directly back to where it landed. And while it's flying, it can adjust to wind and to the terrain. So it can adjust its thrust to be able to maintain the same speed. And as well with big terrain differences, or big elevation differences, this can adjust its height to the terrain so it doesn't crash into the ground. It does have a PPK module, which is just a way to geotag each image, so we're stamping an accurate coordinate onto each image. And the sensor itself is really what does the whole vegetation analysis, mainly the near infrared spectral band. So this 5-band sensor does RGB, which is true color imagery, and then this will pick up the near infrared also, and we'll talk about that in just a second. The camera is interchangeable, so we do have hopes and plans that we can purchase just an RGB, a true color camera, where we can fly our traditional flights and not just the multispectral. Next slide, please. So the multispectral analysis is we are replacing the blue band, and so the RGB, the red, green, blue is the true color. If we replace the blue band with near infrared, that's how we can generate the false color image that you see at the top. And that is, each pixel has a range from -1 to +1. And anything below 0 is dead, completely dead vegetation or an inanimate object or water. As you can see, all the water in the cell is bright red, and anything above 0 is considered alive. The closer to 1 you get is the healthier vegetation. So we can run this through ArcGIS, and it will give us a full analysis of how healthy the vegetation is within the cell. And so the reason why, well, the near infrared, it's absorbed into dead material and it is reflected off of very live, healthy material. So that's why that value of 1 is we're getting a higher reflection of that near infrared spectrum. We won't be able to see any of this imagery today during the flight, obviously, but just watching the drone itself take off and do a couple laps is pretty exciting to me. So we'll be able to see that shortly. And that's all.
Thank you very much. Next, we have stormwater structures with a walking tour afterwards. We're going to be very busy after.
Let's see that spot. Listen to me 2 months ago.
Page, he's the vision chief for our TES group, and he is the #2 in the group, but the #1 when it comes to stormwater. I am happy to step aside. He is much more experienced and has much more expertise, and I appreciate his knowledge immensely. He not only serves as such a resource to our clients, but internally too, for our stormwater outside here in our parking lot, which he will take us around on a field trip after the stop. Thank you.
You will. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We can go to the next slide.
You think I may put the slides out?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's remember us.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can give you a quick brief overview of what the tour will be. We did have a slide in here that showed a typical layout of a stormwater management pond for anybody that hasn't seen one that we developed with one of the counties we work with. You can get that for anybody that needs to see one. It basically shows how water comes in, the different aspects of the pond, how it discharges out. MES's stormwater outside was built so that if a drop of water hits placing the pavement, it doesn't all just mass run off, which was the old system of doing everything. You build one big pond for everything. They switched to more localized point sources. So we have 6 fire retentions in the parking lot that drain different areas of it. We use a non-rooftop disconnect in the back where all the solar panels that we put in come down. They hit pervious ground, which means it can be absorbed into the water. This grass, so it doesn't run off and it'll infiltrate back down in. We have 2 underground. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There's the pond. So this is your typical stormwater pond. We developed this with one of the counties, and we actually use pictures from our pond outside to things. So if you're looking screen right to left, the water will flow in drainage way to the pond. It can come in either through a pipe, through a swale, through a different aspects. Sometimes they just use sheet flow to run off. It'll come in, first chamber it enters can be a 4-bay if possible, which is optional. Some ponds have them, some don't. It's very good for sediment removal and other nutrient removal. You get it into the 4-bay, it's trapped there versus going into the regular pond. That way, when you have to come and muck it out, you're only mucking out a limited area versus the whole pond. You see a little divider in the middle. that would separate the forebay from the main pond area that goes out. On the left side, water will come in from the right into the forebay, sediments and other nutrients will settle out, and it'll move to the main chamber of the pond. And from the left-hand side, you'll see there's an outfall. It will have some form of dewatering structure. It could be an underground pipe that's corrugated. It could be I'm drawing a blank on the riser structure, metal, concrete, different aspects like that. They also have an emergency spillway most of the times. It can go out through the top of the risers, your emergency spillway, or you'll see a depression in the embankment. One of the main things we found when doing pond inspection is people don't realize you need to keep the embankments clear within 15 feet. Root balls can damage your embankment, can blow it out really quick. So that's the main thing that we have. Next slide.
You're not gonna tell us about the raccoons at the bottom.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure where that picture came from. I've seen lots of other things pop out of storm drain. I've seen lots of other things. I've seen possums, cats, dogs, pretty much everything else. So somebody probably found
Somebody
it.
must have seen it.
A couple clowns.
Yeah.
Before one time down in DC, there was an alligator in there. I was like, reach out. Yeah, but so this is the layout of MES's headquarters. You can see there's 6 fire retentions. Can't really see that well based off of these screens, but
But you'll point them out when we go out.
yeah, I'll definitely. We're gonna walk around to all of them. And that'll be so much fun for everybody. So one of the neat factors about MES's building and the way it was built was all of the rooftop drains to a 5,000 gallon underground vault, which will take you to the other end of the building, Pam, if you were moving the mouse. Right, yeah, right there.
Okay.
It drains out that side to a building in the there's a 5,000 gallon vault underground under the parking lot there, and our roof drains drain to that. We actually just repaired the plumbing system in it to be able to use the water for irrigation for all the landscaping here. That was one of the original designs, and we were having some pump issues. Pump's been replaced. We should be good to go there. So that's a neat feature. Then we also have another 2,000 gallon underground storage tank where the parking entrance drains to, and that actually acts as a grit separator. So anything that washes in off of the road and off those initial first entryways where you would typically get more road salts, debris and everything like that, it goes down in there, goes to that grit separator before being discharged to the pond. All 6 of the bioretentions have overflows in them that then actually go, and everything goes to our pond eventually if it doesn't already infiltrate in there. Next one.
Does the vault overflow to the pond?
Yes, yeah, it overflows into the exact same stormwater system that manages and takes it to the pond eventually. I don't know, the design layout is very weird. It really like zigzags all around and then eventually gets to the pond instead of straight lines. Picture on the left is a picture of our detention pond from earlier this year when we did our annual inspection of it. Picture on the right, unfortunately, is not one of our bioretentions. It's a very nice looking one, but when we decided we had to do a slide, the bioretentions don't look that nice in December with vegetation. So we found a nice one from one of our many stormwater inspections to drop in there as a representative. That should be all of them, right there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Thank you to all of our presenters. We have new and old business on the agenda. Does anybody have anything that they would like to bring forward?
Nope, we have to-
Ms. Prakitic was supposed to send me a breakdown.
I have asked that HR to do that. They haven't gotten to it yet.
Any others? Thank you. Mr. Coleman, legal report.
First, I'd like to start off with an update, kind of old business. There had been an audit report issued several years ago that recommended MES enter into written agreements with its state agency clients. We had been operating under the provisions of an executive order for many years that directed MES to operate these facilities. So we have been in the process of drafting those agreements and getting them out to the agencies for their approval. We've completed an agreement with the Department of Health. We've got agreements out to Department of Juvenile Services. We're waiting for their feedback. We're in the process of doing agreements for Maryland Military and Maryland Aviation Administration. And then we've got about 4 or 5 more to do after that. These are primarily for water and wastewater facilities. So we actually do have many written agreements with other state agencies for other types of work. But these were, these kind of fell into what we call the reimbursable projects because of their funding source. But we are making those agreements happen. Probably, we won't have them done by the time General Assembly meets, but we are on our way. Can't go to the next slide. So yesterday, for the first time in over 3 years, the Attorney General met with his entire staff of over 700 attorneys and staff people. We met at M&T Bank Stadium. The Attorney General did make a number of awards, and I'm very happy to announce that our team did receive the Attorney General's Award for Distinguished Service for ensuring government accountability. This relates to our efforts with the McGrath matter and how we supported the agency in responding to the many different requests for information and also the follow-up changes that were required by the General Assembly. So we're very honored to be recognized by the Attorney General for the work that we did. And I'm just, I can't say enough about our great team, Pam and the other attorneys who work with our office who are instrumental in making all that happen. And if you need a recommendation for beer spots near the stadium.
Wonderful, okay. And with that, our next meeting is Thursday, January 25th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
If there's nothing else, we can adjourn.
It's the 25th.
It's the 25th, okay.
Oh, sorry.
It's like 5 or 6 weeks away. We got
It's-
time for everything.
We can inform the birthdays.
All of the 2024 schedule is posted hopefully correctly on the website.
I just, I think we want to announce that even though the board is continuing to meet outside and view these, there will be no official action taken on it.